Hello and welcome to Small Business CEO TV, where small business finds big ideas. My name is Glenn Garnes and I'm your host. I'm also the founder of Small Business CEO. And again, welcome to this show. This show is about helping you get connected to small business owners who have a story to tell and who want to be able to have you get to know them while you get to know their businesses. So our goal is to connect you in a way that you're making a quality connection, whether you're a customer or a colleague. The idea is for you to be able to know who you're doing business with and to enjoy that. So today I've got the other side, or the other bookend of Mind Team Solutions with us, Mr. Josh Silverstone, who is the COO of Mind Team Solutions. Right. And we're going to be talking with him today to get to know Josh and to have a little bit recap and review and maybe some expansion on what Mind Team Solutions is all about. So why don't you start, first of all, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on board for us here.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it.
Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about Josh Silverstone before we start talking about the business?
Sure. Born and raised in the area, kind of grew up in Silver Spring, still live in Silver Spring.
So Silver Spring, Maryland, because there's some people that aren't in the area.
That's fair. Yes, Silver Spring, Maryland. I see that's what you're here for, to make sure I leave those important details, like states, for example. So I went to College Park, University of Maryland College Park. Again, stayed in the area, started my own business about 5 years ago after being in sales for a period of time before that. Been married almost 5 years and have almost a 6-month-old at home, so life is good.
So you a diehard Terps fan, or anybody could move you off of that?
No, I'm certainly a big Maryland Terrapins fan for sure. More probably college basketball than football, but I root for them in whatever it is they play for sure.
Great. Now, Mind Team Solutions wasn't your first business,
that's right,
but it is one that you are extremely excited about. We're going to talk about that later. But I want to talk about your original business because it also happened to be a passion for you beyond just the business purpose. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, it's hard to call this a hobby because you actually did this as a business too. Let me just stop alluding to it. What is it that you did prior to Mind Team Solutions?
Well, I'm sure you're referring to the poker business that I had. So, it was a couple of different things. But after I left the sales world, one of the pieces of advice everyone gives you if you're starting off new is do something you're passionate about. So I went in that route, and a lot of good things came from it. But that's, I feel, what I kind of learned. And even knew at the time, that's one piece of the puzzle. One piece of the pie is following your passion. But I started a poker company, and we started off doing charity poker fundraising, helping different charities raise money for their cause using poker as a tool, which then later evolved. We developed a poker training app to teach people just how to play poker. And then from there, that kind of spun off into using poker as a way to teach different business skills, decision-making, critical thinking, so forth and so on, which really led me to where I am now with Mind Team Solutions.
So before we jump off of that, I don't want this to be lost on people, but the bottom line is that everything you just described led up to what Mind Team Solutions is all about right now, which is helping people to engage in better decision-making, critical thinking, things of that nature. But that also started not just with your desire to develop an app to help people learn how to play poker, but you are a very accomplished poker player yourself. So tell me about that before we move on.
Yeah, I grew up playing games. I love games. Anything you put in front of me, I'll figure a way to play and come up with a strategy for how to put myself in the best position to win. I grew up playing tournament chess. I partially put myself through college playing poker. I played in the World Series of Poker. So definitely a big piece of who I am, and I think a lot of those skills are transferable into business and in life itself.
Well, from other conversations that you and I have shared, you learned an incredible amount, more so than I think most people that simply see poker as a game of chance where they're looking to make some money and not lose much. You have gotten so much out of the poker game that I just was amazed to find out some of the things that go along with having really paid attention and been very mindful about the entire process of playing poker.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you were able to transfer that knowledge into skills that you can now teach entrepreneurs and employees, through Mind Team Solutions.
Absolutely.
That will help them to be better professionals as well.
I think whether it's poker or something else, whatever it is you do, there's something that you can take from it and learn and move forward. So even just piece of advice for people starting off their career and might not be in the ultimate job that they want, or if maybe they want to start their own business or not there yet. If you're in a position where you have to work and you have to take a job and you have to earn money, and I've been in that spot before, like, put yourself in a position somewhere and whatever it is, besides just the money, what can you take and leverage that you learned in that experience and sort of pay it forward? Take that and then build off of it. And that's really served me pretty well over the years.
I love that message. So there's always deeper meaning and deeper purpose and deeper lessons than just what you're doing on the surface.
In everything.
Absolutely. That's a great lesson for an entrepreneur. So you should be doing some coaching too, and actually you are right now. Tell us one thing that most people don't know about you.
Yeah. So I actually come from 13 generations of rabbis. I may have told you that. I don't know if that's something you know.
I didn't know that one. That's a new one.
We've known each other a number of years, so not something I always share. But 13 generations of rabbis going back. I guess broke the chain. My great uncle was the last one. So my grandfather on or great grandfather on, didn't really go that route. But learning and tradition and stuff, that's always been a big part of my family. So that's personal development and ongoing training, education, learning, like that's what it's all about to me.
I wish I could ask you how that compares to growing up as the daughter of a Presbyterian minister. That was my grandmother's on my father's side, but
Sure.
I don't think there's much of a comparison there.
There's some traditions, but I can't say for sure. Yeah.
So you decided not to become a rabbi, but you still are teaching.
And I still grew a beard, in a homage.
Well, that's
right. You gotta have a
that's an
beard.
obligation.
Right, absolutely.
I actually got rid of my beard, my facial hair, only because it was just easier to shave it all off than to try to get it to look right.
It takes some work to try
to keep it. You do a good job with it,
thank
so
you.
good for you.
You know.
So tell me, okay, let's shift in and talk a little bit about Mind Team Solutions.
Sure.
You know, Sylvia had an opportunity to come on the show and to talk a little bit from her perspective as the I'll say you're a co-founder with
Sure.
Sylvia, but she was the original genesis for the idea. You kind of said, hey, we need to be partners, as I understand it, or we need to talk about how we can work together on this, because I see a different direction it could go.
Right.
And you were instrumental in helping her to move it in that direction. So why don't you start there?
Sure. So Mind Team Solutions is about working with companies to really help them thrive from a corporate culture perspective. So we implement the Idea Mind Team platform to get people from different departments, different levels, communicating and working together really through a facilitated platform. And we help make sure that the vision and mission is all moving forward in the right direction, that the best ideas are being brought to the forefront to really help with innovation and in engaging in kind of a new way. For me, I had my own business before, and Sylvia, my business partner, had hers. And everything I've learned over the years, again, I talked about passion before, and another element is finding what you're really good at, and part of that is also realizing what you're not good at and where there's opportunities to fill that gap. So for me, finding a partner was, and I wasn't necessarily seeking it out, but when I started talking and working with Sylvia, it just became apparent that together we're stronger and we can build something better on our own. And from a big part, one of the biggest pieces with entrepreneurship, I've heard you say, and I think you even mentioned before, instead of working for a paycheck, well, you can start your own company and you can basically still trade time for money in your own business. But how do you create something that's scalable and has growth? And that's really where I saw the opportunity for us to come together and do exactly that.
So these TV shows are turning into not just an introduction to our members, but they're also becoming some words of wisdom for our members. And I love that about this this little exchange that we're having here. So one of the things I really like about Mind Team Solutions, if I could share this and maybe get you to expand on it a little bit, is that my experience as I look into corporate America is very similar to what we see in society, where we see some stratus, stratic, what do we call it, levels within a company. For example, you've got entry-level employees, you've got management, you've got corporate executives, and for the most part, there's not a lot of interaction amongst them all, especially when you talk about the lower level, entry-level employees interacting with the so-called C-suite. It's almost like there's a chain of command that's not really broken in any way. But what you're talking about with Mind Team Solutions is being able to teach a process and a culture, if you will, that helps people to understand that everybody's input should be valued and everyone's input is an asset in the goal and mission and vision of a company.
Yeah.
Am I tracking with you on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say all of that is true. I would also say that it also gives the opportunity for those things to be true. So in other words, it's not just, hey, everyone should talk together better, and which is a good message, but how do you actually do that? So what we do is, a month in, month out, ongoing groups that are meeting. So there's accountability that's already built in. We're not just teaching you, hey, you need to know, like you said, communication or leadership training. You're actually having the opportunity to practice that, like I said, month in, month out with people from different levels you can learn from. So there's more skill transfer, knowledge transfer. People are learning while also getting to do it. So it's helping them develop and it's developing the company at the same time. So there's a lot of really good benefits and values that come from it.
So you're planting a seed with the idea behind getting every employee more actively involved in thought leadership, and then you're facilitating the actual implementation of that idea so that there is follow-up. It's not just a matter of, well, that sounded like a great idea, maybe we'll get around to that one day.
Yeah, the goal is to, let's figure out what the best ideas here are. And, from the top level, you've probably seen or at least heard of Undercover Boss, right? They go in, so they go into companies and say, oh, what's actually going on here? Well, we don't have to go undercover to do that. Let's just bring people to the table, facilitate a discussion, see what things we can do, improve upon, move forward with, and so forth and so on.
And that's important. You made that distinction, where we're kind of like almost undercover spying on our employees to see what's going on versus simply inviting them in and having a dialogue and a conversation.
Just ask them.
Yeah.
So what is your experience? You might not know what the driver or the frontline staff person is, but you're doing if you're a few levels or tiers up the line, but get them to the table and say, this is my experience. There might be a clear innovation or improvement that can be made, but there's never that opportunity to have that conversation. So what we're doing is we're creating that opportunity to get that stuff out on the table.
Fantastic. Now, I gave Sylvia an opportunity when she joined us to tell us who you're looking to get connected to. Did you have any supplement or additional information you want to share about who would make a good, either an ideal client or a good referral source?
Sure. Well, from an ideal client perspective, companies with probably 50 plus employees, 200 plus employees, those are probably the best for us just because of where they are and kind of in that emerging growth phase. Industry neutral. I think what we do is it's relevant. They're all going to have the same type of issues. So industries, that doesn't matter as much. The person we're looking to get connected to would probably be C-suite level or perhaps like a training director that if they're involved in that way and with their people. But one of the big things, and I know Sylvia and I both talk about this, is really companies that believe in their people, know that they want to develop them, know that they want to keep them, know that they want to engage them more, but are looking for the how. And I think that's what we could bring to the table.
And for those companies that don't see it that way, they are absolutely wasting human capital by not developing their folks and being able to give them the opportunity to shine in more ways than just what they had on their resume.
People have a lot to bring to the table, and I saw it through, and I was in mentioned briefly, the sales world for a long time. So for over 10 years, working my way up the sales ladder, and the culture there is just so, the nice way, poor. And so how do you improve that and build upon that and create something that's more almost the antithesis of, and invite people to say, I know you have things that you want to do and ideas, and ask them, and then use that to help build the company within. Because if there's no people within your company, you're not going to have much of a company. Yes, there's automation, yes, there's these things, but you need the human element for a lot of it still, and you need to build upon that. If anything, you need more skilled people, because there's jobs that you can automate, there's definitely some that you can't, and those are the ones that we need to focus on. The leadership development skills, you're just not going to be able to supplement that. You just need to build that.
Fantastic. So you've been around the block a little bit in your own business, now in partnership with someone else. I think you and Sylvia read my book on let's not be partners, how to make sure you're getting the right match in business, and I'm glad that worked out. But tell me, what would you say is your the number one thing you like most about being in business for yourself?
Probably the flexibility is probably the biggest thing. I remember when I was working for somebody else, just wanting to take a day off here or there, or wanting to take a week off for vacation, or something came up last minute and I have to move things around. The amount of stress that caused because I knew I wouldn't be able to do it, versus now, and saying, yeah, I may have to work later one night or on the weekends now, it's not that you're working less, probably working actually more, but you can schedule and budget that time. So I like the flexibility and the control over the flexibility to be able to say, okay, well, 3 hours of work time is 3 hours of work time. It doesn't matter if I do it now or it doesn't matter if I do it later. And especially with a young one at home, to be able to have that type of flexibility and still be a good dad and part of the family and still build a business at the same time. I think that's, for me, that's the big thing.
So on that note, before we wrap out, I want to hear about that young one at home. I actually was going to go there. So you're a relatively new dad. You've got a complete family now. You've been married for a while, but you all recently added your first edition.
That's right.
So tell us about that little package of joy.
Oh man, they say they grow up so fast. She's not even 6 months yet, and it feels like every day there's like something you can see the development happening. So as someone who is into the learning and development, business and world, watching her kind of come along and babble and roll over both ways and interact and engage and reach for things. And, I can't imagine even when she starts really talking and walking and crawling around and running around, what that's going to be like, or teaching her some of my hobbies and things like that. I'm looking forward to that, but it's been great.
Have you taught her how to shuffle a deck of cards or manipulate the chips while you're thinking about what your bet's going to be yet?
I think that's around 1 year old. You can get them on that. 6 months is a little early, I've heard.
You'd be surprised how kids can get started at stuff a lot earlier than we give them credit for.
Absolutely.
So just put the deck in front of her. Let's see what happens.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
Well, listen, Josh, I want to thank you for joining us on Small Business CEO TV. As we wrap up, let me let you know how you can get connected to Josh. I think the contact information is the same. It'll be mindteamsolutions.com, www.mindteamsolutions.com. And that's only if you're not watching this from Josh's profile on the Small Business CEO site, where if you're on his one-page website, which is one of our member benefits, you've got all of his contact information sitting right there. So be sure to reach out to Josh and get connected. Otherwise, if you're watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or anywhere else, then you'll have to simply go to mindteamsolutions.com and find Josh there. You can also go to sbceo.com, www.sbceo.com. And for Josh's purposes, you'd want to click the member map, the state of Maryland, and then business services. And you'll be able to find Josh's profile in there. He's got a lot of additional information about him that's perhaps something we didn't cover in detail here in this little chat, but you can find out about it. And you can find out even more by reaching out to him and inviting him out for a cup of coffee. So on behalf of Josh Silverstone with Mind Team Solutions, my name is Glenn Garnes, and we want to thank you for watching this episode of Small Business CEO TV.